Welcome to the podcast, A Drink with Derek. Follow comedian Derek Richards on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and don't forget to subscribe to his YouTube channel and watch all episodes of the podcast. Now grab a drink and join your host, Derek Richards.
Nice to be back here in Las Vegas. Derek Richards, your host. A Drink with Derek was gone for a little while, doing the Irish comedy tour. Had an absolute blast out there on the road, but excited to get back here to sunny Las Vegas. Literally, there was that story in the news, that huge monster pileup outside of Philadelphia. We were there literally like 8 or 9 days ago, and the weather could not have been any more spectacular. So nice to be out of that. I hope the people in the Philadelphia area got through that mess okay. But back here in Las Vegas, excited to get today's episode underway here. And follow me online, DerekRichards.com. Got a bunch of dates coming up here pretty soon. But more importantly, want to thank our good friends at VegasSportsAdvantage.com. If you're going to bet sports, you got to hook up with these guys. They absolutely were crushing it during March Madness. They have a bunch of Major League Baseball futures bets coming up. Also stuff on the NFL. VegasSportsAdvantage.com. You got hockey and NBA playoffs coming up here soon. And if you type in the promo code Derek35, you get 35% off any of their packages. You don't need to get a huge package. Get a small one. See how it works out for you. These guys will make you money over the long haul. VegasSportsAdvantage.com. Also, while you're online, snag a copy of my album, Double Down. Available wherever you download your stuff, iTunes, Spotify, Amazon, recorded live at Laughing Comedy Cafe in Fort Myers, Florida, where I will be April 14, 15, and 16. Fort Myers, Laughing Comedy Cafe. Stop by and check out the show if you're in the area, or if you're not in the area, get on a plane. You can get down there, and the shows are going to be fantastic. Also, the Irish Comedy Tour available on Amazon Prime. Our special is on Prime. If you have Prime, it's absolutely free. All the other platforms are right there. We had a fantastic tour. We had a brand new lineup this time, which was a riot. We added a new comedian, Michael Malone, who joined us. In fact, this picture here that's coming up is, where were we at? Pittsfield, Massachusetts, at the Colonial Theater. So it's myself, Damon Liebert, Derek Kane, and then Michael Malone there on the right. So theirishcomedytour.com. And we actually have a Christmas show that we're putting together. That is going to be absolutely ridiculous. Now let's get to my guest today. He is originally from Long Island, New York. Comedian Dean Napolitano. He started working the comedy scene in Florida and throughout the Southeast. You've seen him on the small screen. TV credits include Army Wives on Lifetime Network, Burn Notice on TBS, Good Morning America, Heroes on NBC, Las Vegas on NBC, The Shield on FX. Also seen in the hit films Transformers 3 and 999. He also has a independent film that he was in part of called Cult Cartel. You can see him April 8th at Cape Cabaret in Cape Coral, Florida, April 15th in Sanford, Florida, and April 23rd, Crack Up Cancer Comedy Benefit in Fort Lauderdale. DeansComedy.com is his website. Comedian Dean Napolitano here on A Drink with Derek.
Harry, my dad's 100% Italian, 86 years old, been growing chest hair for 82 years, this guy. Thanks for getting that one. He's got 3 shades of chest hair. Have you ever seen he's got white and gray, and he's got like a few black ones hanging on from 94, you know what I mean? And he sleeps without a shirt, so it gets in a circular matted pattern. It looks like a hurricane moving across his nipples. Have you ever seen that? You ever seen the storm front chest hair pattern?
A chance, make sure you check out comedian Dean Napolo on Instagram and his videos with his dad, which are hilarious. And as I was saying before we started recording, your dad either has the greatest sense of humor or you are the biggest douchebag son known to man, because those videos are hysterical. And I'm sure he knows what's going on, but I don't know if he really, really knows the comedic value that he brings to the internet.
Well, he does. I mean, he like knows. It's good to talk to you, by the way. He definitely does know. He's like, he plays it up, but I have to catch him off guard. That's when it's funny. You know what I mean? When he tries to act, so I got to get him, fresh.
So you didn't get your acting chops from him, or he's not learning anything from
Hell
you, is what you're
no.
saying.
No, when
That's so
he
funny.
knows
Good.
the camera's rolling, yeah, he starts
Yeah.
like doing an Italian accent and shit. I'm like, Pop, what are you doing?
He starts doing an Italian accent. For an 86-year-old Italian guy, he has to do an Italian accent.
Well, he's a New Yorker, but he'll do the old like, hey, you know what I mean? That's what I'm saying. I'm like, Pop, what the fuck? I go, you got to just talk
That's
normal.
so funny. I love that. Man, good to
But,
see you. It's been literally, I was trying to
same
figure
here.
out the last time. It's got to be when I was still living in Florida, which is at least maybe 12, 13 years ago that we'd actually seen each other in person.
Yeah, probably because I saw you in, I want to say Vegas a long time ago, but it's probably here for sure. Yeah, I remember. I mean, you go all these years, you're like, holy shit, it's been 12 years.
Yeah, I don't need your sass. How old are your kids now?
Oh man, 20. They'll be 28 and 23 in August.
Wow.
No,
Yeah, because
28,
that goes
24.
back. Yeah, because I remember when they were teenagers. The last time we had talked, and you had something to go tend to with your kids, and they were at the time they would have been like 15 years old. So wow, that's insane.
Probably high school stuff. You know what I mean? It's like it goes so fast, bro.
Unbelievable.
Well,
you've been down in Florida for a long time, from Long Island. You still have family up there, or did everybody come down here? How did that all transpose?
Most everybody escaped from New York. You know what I mean? Like I have my brother-in-law is still up there, and I have nephews and nieces, but no sisters or brothers are up there. And there's 8 of us. So, well, there was 8 of us, but now everybody's like all over. Nobody wants to live in New York.
Well, yeah, now's a different animal completely. I mean, you've been doing comedy now for how long?
There, yeah. 31 years.
31 years.
Yeah. How about you?
I've been I started in 93, so it would be 28,
started around the same time.
20, yeah. Yeah, I started Thanksgiving 1993 in Michigan. So now you started down in Florida.
Yeah, 92 in Daytona, right around Easter time. Won a contest.
You remember the gig?
I said, I know what I want to do. Oh yeah.
You remember
Daytona
the gig?
wins the Marriott. Yeah, the Marriott, and they had a contest. They stopped all the dancing and they said, we're going to do comedy at midnight. They called it Saturday Night Live. Because everybody that's trying to hook up wants to see some jokes at midnight.
Yes, jokes at midnight after you've been out there dancing and trying to get your date all primed action to hit the door. Now, jokes.
Let me tell you about my dad.
If people had any clue the crap that we go through in this business and the scenarios that we are put in, and being forced to do comedy in the most untenable situations, it's mind-boggling.
And we always say something too. Every comic's done this. I'm not doing these gigs anymore. I'm not doing that ever again. 2 weeks later.
Yeah.
What does it pay?
Yeah. Oh, I know. It's horrible. We're whores.
I know we are, man. We are. I say
we're absolute whores. You're like, you look at your calendar, you go, oh, that date's open. Fine, I'll do it.
I
so ridiculous.
I was like, it is because, and I had no voice yesterday. I was popping spray pills, like lozenges to get my voice back. It's like, I got to do my gig, man. The world's counting on me.
Well, I had texted you last night.
I got to get in there.
You said you were coming back from a gig, and I'm like, and I'm looking at I'm like, it's a Tuesday. Good for you.
Tuesday.
Picking up a gig on a Tuesday.
I know. So I was like, I guess I'll take it. It's a Tuesday. But it was in Fort Lauderdale, which is 3.5, 4 hours for me. So I just drove back. And
That's
I bought a new, oh man, dude. And the older we get, it's like 4 hours after a show.
No.
Yeah.
No, it's brutal. You've been in the business 31 years. I always try to ask questions that are a little bit off the beaten path. I'm not going to ask you the best advice you ever got in this business. Tell me the worst advice you ever got.
I want to say the worst advice when I first started, there was a lady teaching comedy. She was a nice enough lady in Orlando, and she ran an open mic at the Comedy Zone on Lee Road. I don't know if you remember that one at the Holiday Inn.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And her name was Vicky Rousman, nice enough lady, but she was like, you need to take my comedy class and learn how to write a joke because you got good stories, but and I'm like, you got good likability. And I'm like, well, I don't believe Eddie Murphy took a comedy class. I don't think George Carlin did. And I said, I'm not, saying don't do it, but she's like, well, a light bulb walks into a bar. Give me 5 punchlines. I go, I don't want to do that kind of comedy. She goes, well, you need to take my class. That was the worst advice I ever got. I didn't take the fucking thing. I was like, I'm not doing this class.
That's funny. Now she ran this. Now she ran that room or ran that open mic. So now, because you wouldn't take her class, would she not put you up on stage?
No, she did, but I ended up going first almost every time, which was a benefit because I learned how to be a strong comic. I had to go up cold.
Right.
So I didn't give a crap. I was like, all right, I'll go up.
Now you're starting off in comedy, and people always ask. They go, well, what comics did you look up to? Which comics did you want to be like? What comic did you see that you did not want to be like?
That's a good question. I've never been asked that.
And it's not and there's no wrong answer. I mean, like, I would not, like, if I was a comedian today and I'm looking at somebody and I'm not slamming him at all. I mean, the guy makes millions and millions of dollars. I wouldn't want to be Jeff Dunham.
Yeah.
I mean, I want his bank account, but I don't want to be what he's doing on stage.
Yeah. You know what? Not for me. I mean, I kind of I liked ventriloquism when I was a kid, but I never was like, I want to be a ventriloquist comic. But I think someone like Richard, and it's not that I don't like the guy. I actually did an episode of Las Vegas with him, but Richard Lewis, it's the way he's like, and he just paces and paces. And I watch him for, I just like, it's just so annoying, like an annoying comic. That's just so, you like just whiny. And I'm like, ugh, that's not what I want to portray. I was like,
Yeah, his neurotic persona doesn't do it for me either.
It does not. It's annoying. I'm like, who the hell would watch that? I remember we were on the set of Las Vegas and we were playing a poker game. And he found out I was a comic. And then he respected me a little more talking to me. And he's like, yeah, I got my box set coming out. It was like, he goes, it's like 7 hours of comedy. I'm like, Jesus Christ, what do you want to put people to bed? I mean, 7 hours of you? You know what I mean?
Please tell me on the rap day that you said that to him.
Yeah, I didn't say, in my head I said it. I was smart enough to know on the set because he was a regular on the show. But I was like, what are you going? You starting to work for an anesthesia company? Who wants to listen to that shit? 7 hours of Richard Lewis.
Now, you were talking about this comedy class that this lady was teaching in Orlando, but then ironically, you ended up teaching comedy classes down at the Improv in West Palm Beach, Florida. And then was it just there, or were you teaching them at a couple different places also?
No, I honestly made it through because Renee Hart's a good friend of mine, and I came back from LA, and I needed.
She's a sweetheart.
Like, she's great, and she's like, hey, I got these classes on Monday, Tuesday, at the Improv. You want? And I was like, I'm not a big fan of that. And then I told so I did it for about, I don't know, 3 classes I think I did. And I would tell the people taking the class, I'm not a teacher, I'm your comedy guide. I tell them about the business. I said, I'm not writing your material. I'm going to tell you, I'll give you pointers and watch you guys grow and give you tips on how to, work a piece of material. But I was like, I don't want, a lot of these classes, you see little minions of the person teaching running around, but I got too stressed too. I wanted everybody to do well. And I was like, watching them, and I'm trying to help them with their act and tell them how to, it's basically, I taught a lot of them just stage presence, getting up there, being focused on stage. They were only doing 2 to 5 minutes, but the stress of it, and then just doing it after the third one, I was like, this ain't for me. And I never did it again. I can't do it, man. I can't teach comedy because you're not really teaching. There's no teaching comedy. You have your stuff and another comic helps you kind of mold it. There's no you're either funny or you're not funny. I mean, I think everybody has a few minutes of funny in them, but it's how you kind of mold it and how, you've written with, not written with, I don't really write with people, but you'll have a joke and someone's like, oh, you should do this in there. You should do that. Yes. It never works. It never works. It's got to be, they could add a tag or they could, say, oh, you ever think about this? But when they tell you how to be funny, it just never works for your personality, in my opinion.
No, it doesn't. I think one of the key things is that, if you're working with somebody for any length of time, you're doing a gig or because we have those people that we end up kind of pairing up with, through through time, where it's like you end up working with somebody on a routine basis, and it's kind of cool because then you can really throw in some legitimate taglines or say, have you thought about maybe rewording this or doing that, only because you've seen their personality on stage. And then if you get along with them well enough and your styles are similar, there's nothing worse than having somebody who is like for me, an insanely squeaky clean act who comes up and says, hey, instead of this, maybe you should say kittens. I'm like, please stop talking.
You see, that's exactly how I approach it. I have like 2 or 3 guys that I've worked with before, and we just bounce shit off of each other, and it's like that. But like you said, I'm not I can do squeaky clean, but I don't prefer it, and I'm like, I don't.
No,
like
I'm with you. I will say this.
Like,
I will say this real quick. Getting back to your comedy class, my ex-wife had taken your comedy class.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
And she was extremely complimentary of you and your teaching style. I will say that.
No kid. That's nice to hear.
I mean, I haven't talked to her in 12 years. I could care less, but
she could be in the back of a trunk somewhere burning. I don't know where she is. She could
be in the next room burning, and your dad's not hearing her on fire because he doesn't have his hearing aids. He didn't charge his hearing aids. I've got to bring this up only because we were talking about this right before we started recording, because you could hear the TV through the wall because he was watching The Price is Right, and he didn't have his hearing aids charged. And you were telling me this, I was dying laughing because I know, like, my grandmother was the same way. She wouldn't, like, she'd forget to charge her hearing aids, and then she'd be yelling, and you're trying to yell back, and she's not going to hear you.
And you look angry. You're like, no, it's not on. And then he's like, is that low? And I go, let me see your hearing aid. So he gives it to me. I put it by my ear. I'm like, this is dead. I grab the other one. This is dead. So I go in his room. The thing's unplugged. They're totally dead. The TV's at 38. I'm like, I'm ready. So I got him charging now. Like, right now, he probably can't hear shit right now. He's not hearing nothing.
What was funny was we heard the phone ring in the other room, and you stopped and you went, hang on, let's see if he answers it. And I'm like, he's not going to answer. He can't hear it.
He probably didn't hear it. He's probably like, what is it? What's that? What is that? Sometimes, dude, I'll walk in late from a show sometimes, and I will come in the door. He has him in, and I'm like standing right behind him. I could be like Michael Myers, like, he doesn't know. I go, yo. He goes, oh, Jesus.
So was it just you and your dad? So you and your dad in the house? Is that the?
Yeah. It's one of them things I fell into. I love my dad, but caretaking's tough. And my mom was kind of sick for a while. I took care of her, and then that all went by 5-6 years ago. And now he was doing good until right before the pandemic, and then he just had pneumonia, couldn't drive anymore. So it became one of those things, So we'll see how it goes. We're doing all right. He's
you're a good son, being able to be there in that setting and to be a good caregiver. No, seriously, that says a lot because a lot of
very bad thoughts.
Who have you, in your 30 plus years in this business, who have you pissed off?
A few people.
And you don't need to mention names if you don't want to, but just scenarios.
I had before. What's her name? Chelsea Handler. She did a guest. Josh Wolf brought her into this club I was hosting for Bonkers out in LA. They had a little club there for a while, Bonkers at Universal Studios, and she came in. She just had her book. She only had one girls behaving badly, but she came in to do a guest spot on our show. Josh brought her in, and Josh was an okay guy. I only met him once or twice, and she came in and did her spot, and she really didn't do that well. She wasn't famous at the time, didn't have a show yet, her own show. But she was dating a guy from Comedy Central, and by dating, you know what I mean. And anyway, she was okay. She wasn't like over friendly. And then after the show, she was pushing her book that she was selling, and she asked me to push it, and I, did it at the end. And then at the end of the show, I was like, "Hey, Chelsea, thanks for doing the show tonight. I appreciate it." She just kind of ignored me, and I just thought maybe she didn't hear me. And I said, "Hey, Chelsea, I just want to say thanks for doing the show." She looked at me, and she's drinking her vodka cranberry, and she's like, "I heard you the first time." And I said, "Oh, where I come from, you bitch, we say you're welcome." And then Josh was like, dude, what the hell? And I'm like, no, fuck her. And then it was like this whole thing. And then 2 years later, year and a half, she got her show. And everyone's like, well, you fucked up that relationship. I don't care. And then I saw her like a couple years later, and you call someone a bitch, they don't forget you. Because she saw me at a club my buddy was doing to audition for her show, and she was just giving me the evil eye. And I'm like, yeah, she remembers me.
That just, you know what though, but I appreciate your attitude and the fact that you just don't, that you don't care. It's like, listen, where you come from and how you were raised and who you hung out with, that's just how you act as a person, as a human, as someone who just, listen, even if she didn't like you, just to at least acknowledge and say, oh, you're welcome. Just something so basic.
Say, no problem. Yeah. I'm not looking for small talk.
No, I don't want your secret recipe for spaghetti sauce. I just say, hey, thanks for being on the show.
Well, one time too, you remember Monty Hoffman? Do you remember Monty Hoffman? Older comic,
the name rings a bell.
He was the coach on Saved by the Bell, the wrestling coach. Anyway, he was friends with Drew Carey. Well, we ran a night at the Ha Ha down in North Hollywood on a Monday. And Rich Voss's wife, Bonnie McFarlane, had the same manager as me, Messina Baker. And my manager said, hey, can she come down and work out a spot for, something she was doing? I was like, sure. Well, this other comic, Devin Williams, I don't know if you know him. He had a lot of substance problems.
Oh, I remember him. That guy was a funny dude, but he was a locomotive on a sidewalk.
Like a bullet, 0 to 60, So he was sober at the time. Comes in, Monty.
When was that 5 minutes?
It's true.
I only say that because every time I saw him, he was completely obliterated. So, he may be completely sober now. He may be, I don't even know if he's still here. But he was a funny dude.
Very funny, but just had his issues. And he came in to do a spot. So he's drinking coffee and can't think of the guy's name who runs that club. He's a Persian guy. And I got along great with him. He ran the Ha Ha on Lancashire. And Devin gets a coffee, and the guy charges him like $6 for the coffee. And Monty's like, you can't charge a comic $6 for a coffee. That's bullshit. And Monty's like this heavy ball comic, old school, had his own substance problems in the day. He's passed on. And he's like, fuck you, Monty. You can't tell me. He sounds like the guy from Star Wars. He's like, Annie, get the cars, Annie. You got to get the parts, Annie. Like that Persian. He's like, Monty, fuck you can't. And I'm like, and I'm watching this go down, and I was going every week building up this Monday night. We were getting a good crowd. It was a Hollywood, LA room. And Bonnie McFarlane is on stage at the time working out her material in front of a decent crowd. And he goes like, his name's Jack. Great guy, Jack. I like him. He's like, Dean, I like you, but this piece of shit, he's not going to tell me what to do in my club. He goes, show's over. No more comedy. I was like, I'm just stunned. This is like 2 months of work every Monday. I go, all right. I go, well, I guess this will be the last show. He goes, no, right now. Get her off the stage. I go, okay, when she's done with her act, I'll get her off. He goes, no, get her off now or I'll shut the lights. So I walk out and Bonnie's out there doing her material. And I felt like an asshole. I walk out behind her. I'm like, hey, Bonnie. And she's still going. I go, Bonnie. She turns around and she gave me a look like, what the fuck, dude? I go, yeah, Jack, the owner, says, that's it, we're done. She goes, are you kidding me? She said something like, are you fucking kidding me? Are you kidding me? Like, she was pissed at me.
Right.
And I was like, I'm sorry. And he literally got everybody out, cashed their tabs. And then, a couple months later, I'm at the Improv. We had the same manager. I see her at the bar at the Improv, and we're showcasing for like CBS. And she's like, hey, I go, hey, Bonnie, how's it going? Same thing as Chelsea. And she doesn't answer me. So I go, hey, Bonnie, how's it going? She goes, I heard you the first time. And I gave the same answer. I said, oh, where I come from, we say, pretty good. How you doing, you bitch? And my manager, Melanie, goes, Dean, what the hell? I go, this is bullshit. And then it was like this whole thing I couldn't stand. Now, here she's very nice. Now, I heard she was, but, I ran into Rich Voss, and I told him the story. And he goes, oh, you know my wife? I said, yeah. He goes, what do you think? I said, she was a bitch to me. But, everybody tells me she's a sweetheart now, but maybe she was going through her own shit at the time. I don't know. But, I always treated everybody nice, Derek. I never mean to anybody.
No, you're one of the rare guys in this business that nobody has a bad thing to say about anybody that I talk to. Seriously, there's
And,
nobody.
you know,
No, I mean, but again, and also too, it's just it's good to have that kind of a persona. And again, if somebody is gonna, act that way to you, like like Chelsea Handler, or in that obvious case with, with Bonnie, which, again, I've heard nothing but good things about Bonnie, but I've never
no,
met her before.
right now I hear nothing but good things about her. But that
Right,
experience, and I'm not going to judge her on that one, but I know she was probably
right,
pissed at me from not knowing what happened at that club, and I never got to talk to her again, even though we had the same
yeah,
management. But I think she just kind of didn't like me from coming out that night, because I think she had like
right.
a set she was doing maybe on a late show or something. I don't know, but I think that kind of hurt me a little bit in LA, because I would voice my opinion to people if they were disrespectful in the way that you're like, don't treat me like that. I'm not a piece of shit. And, you got to kiss ass in Hollywood, pretty much. But when I ran into Rich Voss, Rich was nice, because there's a whole other story at my manager's wedding that went down, and too long to tell on here, but I'll tell you when I see you down in Fort Lauderdale. And, but,
Oh man,
people are at different points in life, and I ran into Rich, and Rich was super nice to me. He was funny. We were working the Black Box. He came in and did a set down in Boca, and he mentioned it to me, and I told him what happened. He's like, "Yeah, that sounds like Bonnie." That's what he said. But then everybody I've
He's
talked to said she's a sweetheart now. Like she's like super nice.
You know what's so funny? I had Rich on the podcast, and when it goes full screen, like we just did with you,
Yeah,
when we pulled
yeah.
Rich full screen, he went, "Where'd you go? Where'd you go?" And I went, I'm still here." He goes, "I don't want to talk to myself. Get back on the screen." I go, "You're serious?" He goes, "I'm dead serious." He goes, "Why is it just me?" He couldn't
See,
understand. It was so he's so neurotic and so funny, and just, I mean, such a
he
good
is.
dude. But I was dying laughing when he went full screen. It was like it was like his house just caught on fire. He was just like, wait, where'd you go?"
It's so funny because I know just from the little bit I talked to him, I could tell. Like, you meet somebody when you're younger, you're going through stuff. I was going through a divorce. They just got married after whatever, and I didn't really know Rich.
Right,
Just that little conversation I had with him down there, I was like, this guy's funny as shit, and he's nice. He was really nice to me there. We talked, and it's that whole, this happened at this point. Nobody knew the circumstances, right? And talking to
right.
Rich and seeing his comedy that night, I thought, this is a funny bastard. And talking to him after the show, I was like, that's a guy I could laugh with. But
Yeah,
I don't know him. I don't know. You see the guys you see, and that's it. You develop friendships. But I think he's funny as hell. But that was a funny encounter, though, because he
that
said
is
the way he said it,
hilarious.
because he goes, I feel like I met you before. I go, you did at Melanie's wedding back in whatever, and we sat at the same table. That story is hilarious too. But
That's
that's for
funny.
another day.
I wish
It's good.
I wish we did have time to share the story on the podcast. What
Oh shit.
you have a great relationship with your dad. I mean, at least you certainly it comes across that way. I mean, you
Yeah,
love him. He's your dad. You live with him. You're taking
yeah,
care of him, and your videos on Instagram, which people really need to check out. People need to follow you on social media. On go to deanscomedy.com, and then of course Dean Napolitano on Instagram. But have you always had that relationship with him?
yeah. I mean, I'm the youngest of 8 kids, and I'm the only one he named. Named me after Dean Martin. You know, he. But my dad was a very strict. I don't want to say strict. He was a very hot temper Italian. He's a carpenter, ex-military, 20 years. So everything was regimented in the morning. We didn't get up in the morning to do stuff. He'd turn our mattresses over. Me and my brother Keith, and that's. But that's part of my whole reason I'm a comedian. You know what I mean? He would do shit that, learning how to play blackjack at 6, stuff that you don't normally teach kids.
I
Uh,
love that.
you know, yeah, it was, but that's what my whole one man show is about, is all this crazy dysfunctional shit we grew up with. That's hilarious. But, and I never had anything with my childhood that I was like, oh, my dad didn't do this, because my dad was tough. You got corporal punishment. My dad would whip our toes with belts. Someone took $5 from my mom's wallet. He lined all the kids up without their shoes and took his belt off and started whipping in front of our toes, and we get closer with every fucking belt. And then as
Wow.
soon as it hit someone's toes, man, that $5 showed up real quick. I forgot. I just remembered that right now. That story. We always laugh about it, my family, because we're like, who took the $5? Because you get a belt on your toes barefoot. That shit hurts.
Oh, I roll my
But
suitcase
yeah,
over my toe and it hurts.
oh, it's so sensitive. But yeah, I mean, he came on the road a lot with me when he was more healthy. He right now he's a different stage of life, 92,
Sure.
walker. But
Wow.
back in the day, he would come out and he would hang out at night and do funny shit and talk to people, and people are like, your dad goes to a lot of shows. That's not normal. I'm like, well, 50% of them, 80% of them, I didn't invite them. Italians invite themselves in his. He's like, am I coming to this one? I go, I don't know. Are you? And Derek, my mother would be like, you could take him. I'm like, I don't want to take him on this. It's just
I
like
don't
10
want
shows
to.
in a row.
No.
He wanted to get him. You can't
Well,
make this shit up.
you did a one-man show that you had done in hopefully I get the name of it right. Was it Lake St. Helen, Florida? Is that correct?
It was close. It was Lake Helen, Florida.
Lake Helen, Florida.
Which
Gotcha.
is, between
And
Daytona and Orlando.
now you did a run there. You did, was it like 2 weekends, I think?
Yeah, we did 2 weekends. We did 5 shows.
Okay.
And we had done it once in Sanford at a theater right when the pandemic was kind of going strong, and it went really well. And then we added some stuff, but the show's basically my childhood from birth till 10 years old. And then I do talk about everything from nicknames, learning how to play blackjack at 6, going to my first funeral, my appendicitis, being in the hospital by myself, and nurses sticking fingers in my ass for tests without my mom there, and me going, what's going on? And that one will keep it quiet, huh?
I was looking at the bottom of the screen. I was looking at the bottom of the screen where my total douche producer put the https://www.deanscomedy.com on the bottom of the screen because he's an ass. Thank you, Sean. Yeah, we were joking around about he said, oh, I'm online with a couple of dinosaurs because we were talking about how we used to do phone numbers years and years ago. But I want to pull up the pictures you had sent from Bart Drive Boys, which is the name of your one-man show that you did over in there's the set right there. Now, did you so is this a TV screen then on the left, and it kind of rotates with different things that you had talked about? What's the story with the set here?
So the story with the set is basically it's a 70s basement living room type setting like we all had up north, paneling, that old Dutch style paneling, the console TV over there on the stage left there. Is that stage left facing? Yeah, stage left is the Bart Drive Boys street sign. So when I would talk about playing on the street, I would walk over to the street sign. I'd act out these, playing baseball with my friends, go through the whole scene of playing baseball, and you either Met or a Yankee. I do this whole play out scene. The TV is used to kind of exposition of the story. Like, is that the right word? Exposition.
Illustrate.
To illustrate like with pictures, and we had audio cues.
Sure.
So I do a whole bit on the Thanksgiving. This Thanksgiving Day parade bit is when I moved to LA. That's kind of what got me my management. I had this whole bit on the Cat in the Hat balloon fiasco when my daughter was 6. So I talk about being a kid watching it, how great it was, and then what I'll do is I'll contrast that with like, it's not like today, the balloons don't fly high anymore. So I put in elements of my stand up, probably like 4 bits of my stand up, but most of it's story about my family. That's the one to me. So then I talk about, the big thing in the day was getting a new bike, and I talk about how like back, in the 70s, you didn't get a bike on a random Tuesday or because your team came in 5th place in Little League, 5th place. You had to be like a special birthday or a special Christmas.
That was Christmas or a birthday, absolutely.
Yeah, and it had to be a milestone birthday, like 13. I'm getting a new bike. And then I talk about how I wanted to be a stunt man growing up because I saw the movie Hooper. So I have like a picture of the picture of Hooper comes up on the TV. Like I do a whole bit on the console TV, and then I do a whole thing on console stereos. Just growing up in the 70s, nicknames, my nickname was Egghead. My next door neighbor's nickname was Ching Wang Sao because he looked Chinese, but he wasn't. My brother's nicknamed him that. So, half Italian, half German, but he looked Chinese.
He looks Chinese.
Swear to God.
How long did it take you to put this thing together?
Well, I had it in my head since I lived in LA in '01, 02. People were doing one-man shows, and I was kind of setting them apart. And I just never had the discipline to sit down. But when the pandemic hit, my producer friend, Jeffrey Ault, who helped me produce it, and he directed it, we started like revisiting it. And he's like, we need to do this. We got all this time. He goes, just write it out. So I did. I wrote it out. I had my girlfriend at the time, Lauren Anastasi, who I love, and she helped me like really kind of craft it. She's a very smart writer and musical person. She helped me kind of with some of the format and order of how it would kind of carry better. But it was I would say painstaking, but I got it out. It was in my head for all this time. And I know what I wanted to do, And it took me probably 5 months to get it where I wanted it. We performed it the first time October of 2020 during the pandemic when we just opened up here. And it went amazing. And, I was like, we didn't get one rehearsal in the theater because, the crisis. And we set the setup that morning.
There's no crisis in Florida.
I know.
There's no pandemic in Florida. That's why when you go, I opened it up in October 2020. Everybody else watching this across the planet is going, October 2020, you opened up a show and it was well attended? Yes. Because Florida didn't care.
We did a 50% capacity at the place. You had to wear a mask. But, it was the perfect time to put it out. People were hungry. They wanted nostalgia of a simpler time. They wanted, the political correctness now, the wokeness. Most people are tired of. I mean, I think the majority of America with it. The loudness is what's coming through right now. And this one-man show, it goes back to, drinking out of the freaking water hose and playing with your friends in the street and games that we played and gambling as a 6-year-old and being in the hospital by myself, going to my first funeral at school, for my teacher who had a wooden leg. And how we all would make fun of the wooden leg, and it's just my story, And I did it for 5 shows. The plan is we're putting it into a play format now to hopefully publish, and then we're going to take it around. I'm going to be doing the Visani's in Port Charlotte with it, and then hopefully Vegas if we can get a place there to do a little bit of a run there, and then showcase it in New York, LA, and then in 2023 I'd like to travel with it. I'd like to get a trailer, bring the set on the road, and just bring it up to Northeast. I think people will love it.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that seems to fall right in the wheelhouse of where people can appreciate that time in our lives and that era when we grew up, because it's, I'm 55 now, and when you talk about all that stuff, I know exactly what you're talking about. And just the fact that we grew up in a politically incorrect environment. At the time, we didn't think it was politically incorrect. We were also watching All in the Family and laughing our asses off.
Right.
And nobody cared. Nobody gave a second thought about it. I didn't look at any different ethnicity differently just because I was watching Archie Bunker.
Funny. Right.
It was just funny. We just laughed. It was inappropriate, but we just thought it was hysterical.
Yeah. But like we used to watch Sanford and Son just as much, and we used to laugh our asses off at Red Fox because the shit he would say. And he would get, it was just hilarious. It was at some point they started, and I said this in LA. I remember when I went out to LA, I was like, it's funny. They have like Asian night, and then it's Italian, like spaghetti comedy night. And then it was like, Sokwaki Wednesday. And then it was like Beaner Tuesday. Yeah. And spaghetti night was the Italian comics. I'm like, the best shows are when it's mixed. The best shows is when it's mixed audience, mixed people, and everybody can relate on a commonality. Not like, oh, you got to be Hispanic to get that joke. You got to be Asian. You got to be Italian. I think when you're universal, it's the best.
Do you ever watch All in the Family with your kids now?
They've seen it. They think it's funny. It's like it's crazy, but.
Well, they also have you for a dad, so I mean, and they've got Grandpa in the next room. So yeah, exactly. I like how you just say "and him." You point to the wall and him.
My dad says shit that he doesn't realize is not like you can't say that. I'm like we have this CNA who comes in, great guy, does the shower for my dad, assists him and all that now.
Right.
He's a black guy. He's a black guy.
Right.
So I'm always like, oh shit, you know. And
Oh boy.
a Popeye's chicken commercial comes on TV. I was sitting there.
Oh no.
Derek, he's trying to be funny, and the guy loves my dad because he knows my dad.
Sure.
And he looks at my buddy there, and he goes, "Hey, you like that?"
But you know what? Here's the thing too. It also depends on where it's coming from.
Right.
Because you can tell when someone it's coming from a place of innocence. He's not,
and he's trying to bond with. He's trying to
exactly. He's not being mean. You can tell when someone is saying something to be mean versus someone saying something and just being funny. So
but you know,
kudos to the guy who comes in and helps them out.
Yeah. He's awesome. I love this guy, and I'm like this. I go, "Are you kidding me, Pop?" He goes, "Hey, do you like that?" He says it twice, right? And he goes, "No, I don't." And he goes, "I don't eat that stuff." He goes, "You don't eat that?"
Your old man, he just doubles down.
He just doubles down, and then he thinks he's just joking. And he's like, you know, my dad was in the military in the 40s and 50s. He retired in 69, so from 58, 59 to 69. No, 49 to 69. And he was with a lot of black guys, and he was in the days where he said at one place that the black soldiers had to sleep out in the tents. They weren't in the barracks until they integrated it. But he was always like, this is bullshit. He'd go to Kansas City with his black friends. If they couldn't get in, he wouldn't go in. But he always says, we used to joke each other. They call me Guinea, you Guinea bastard. I'd say you blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, ooh, Pop, you can't say that. You know, but he's like, back then, it's that generational gap of, you know, what's appropriate, inappropriate. And
yes.
But when he said that to him, dude, I was like, and he looks at me, he goes, it's all right, dude. He goes, you don't even know. I said, I'm sure you've had war. Like, he goes, oh yeah. And they get along great. And then he tells me, he goes, oh yeah, your dad's always talking shit about you. Oh, he's the boss, I'm the horse. You know, we go through this whole routine. You know,
I love that.
Italians have a hard time giving up control, you know.
That's so funny. What scares you, comedically or otherwise?
You know, I saw that question. That was one that stuck out because I really don't know. I'm not saying I'm not scared of anything, but I think what scares me is not having my kids around, not being able to hang out and talk to them, you know, the family. I'm not really afraid of, I don't want to say I'm not afraid of death or something like that. I don't want to die, but I watch my mom, my sister, my brother, unsaid things too, like, you know, saying the wrong thing, or, you know, him and I get into an argument over something stupid because he's having bad dementia issue. And I'm like, and, you know, then I have to like ground that of like saying, okay, he doesn't know what he's saying right now. I can't take it personally.
Right.
Because when you're caretaking, shit like that happens, and you're like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
And your immediate reaction is like, oh, fuck, I choke you. But, you know, you have to like control that, because God forbid something does happen. You don't want that to be the last thing that you said, you know. So just,
no, I know.
You know, holding your temper, you know. Because it's like, even like with comedy, you know, like seeing the Chris Rock get hit. I was punched on stage 4 years ago. Guy in Daytona just cold cocked me with a, you know, came up. I said, hey, you can't come up here. And he just boom and spun me around, concussion. He went to jail.
Wow.
Yeah. I didn't really talk about it much. I had the video. I could have fried this guy on social media, but I decided not to ruin his life by putting the video up, because turns out he was getting divorce papers before the show. So it wasn't me. Just like that whole thing with Chris Rock wasn't Chris Rock. That was everything from Will Smith's life that he is not happy with. And he didn't like Chris Rock. Chris Rock took shots at him, but it bothered me the other night. I was pissed because the way Will Smith walked up was exactly the way the guy walked up to me. Very nonchalant, almost with a smile on his face. So you don't know.
Right.
Because if you're the comic, you look like an asshole. If you go into, like, when I go to my karate stance, you know, it's like, you're kind of thinking.
Well, when you say it like that, you look stupid.
Yeah, exactly. I always say karate. That was from Seinfeld. He goes, I went into my karate stance.
My karate stance.
you sit there. Our job as comics is to bring happiness and laughter and joy and see angles. We never go with the intention of insulting or hurting people. At least I don't. I think most comics don't. But sometimes it goes down that path. And
well, it just ends up being,
you know,
and again, what happened with Chris Rock? I mean, I thought that was just first off, the fact that Will Smith could just go sit back down, and then 10 minutes later collect an Oscar, and then people stood up for him. I'm like, no.
and the hypocrisy, right?
Beyond, literally everything that happens in our society. Whenever you see some kind of a act of violence, and that whole culture in Hollywood, the way they react anywhere else. I just wish, and who was this guy that was that I saw at the car wash the other day? He said, because you know what? I wish Joe Rogan would have made that comment about Will Smith's wife. Let's see what would have happened there.
He would have never walked on stage. No way. And the hypocrisy about his speech afterward. And I knew it was real from the go. People were like, oh, it's staged. I said, no. I knew by his response, because I had a similar response where after I got hit and I came to, because I went, this guy hit me a closed fist right on the button, mouth open. The audience jumped on him, and you have all this emotion going on. Number one, you're shocked. Then you're like rage a little bit. And then you're just like embarrassed, humiliated. And you could see Chris Rock was like, man, what? And then he had like 5 jokes ready to go, and he held them back. You could tell he was like,
right.
And then he stopped. But it's like, then he goes and accepts the award and says, I want to be a vessel of peace and love. And everything you just did says that's not what you are. You're exactly the opposite. So everything you worked for was basically bullshit, because you had rage in you. I mean, how is that? What are you, OJ? If you had a knife, were you going to go, And
right.
now OJ, you see today, OJ commented on it. Somebody asked OJ.
I did not see that. Now I've got to pull it up. I've got to see OJ Simpson's comment on Will Smith smacking Chris Rock. That has got to be priceless. I have got to see that.
Right before we came on, I read it, and OJ was like, yeah, I've been surprised in the airport. People asking me, what do I think of the Will Smith thing? And I think he was wrong for doing that. I'm like, how about you stabbing your wife and another man? Was that wrong? But I want to know what you think about his style. OJ's like, I killed the bitch. I stabbed the motherfucker.
Wow. Now I've got to go back and read OJ Simpson's comment on the Will Smith Chris Rock thing. But you know what cracked me up though too, with the picture of, who was it? Bradley Cooper, Denzel Washington, and Tyler Perry consoling Will Smith.
Right.
And I'm like, you know what? I liked Bradley Cooper, and Denzel, I think, is one of the best actors ever.
He's my favorite.
I mean, he's brilliant. And,
he's one of my favorites.
Tyler Perry, Medea, whatever. I could care less. But the fact that they go up there and console him, he was the aggressor and he lost his mind. I'm like, seriously? I just thought, again, just that we could do we could do 10 episodes on that that scenario. And it was so on hypocrisy. Exactly. If anybody, how that action was just done and then accepted in the Hollywood scene, and him just going and sitting back down, no police, no security going, you got to come with us. That's assault and battery. That's how you just walking up on stage and saying, I'm going to punch you out in the parking lot. You physically hit somebody. That's assault and battery.
And they made like it was okay. They made like, if that's in a comedy club, that dude goes to jail, like the dude that hit me. It's like, you don't. And now, and then a lot of comics are saying this. What precedent does that set for people at comedy clubs? My dad has Alzheimer's or dementia, and walk up. You can't do that joke. So now it's going to be. I'm always on guard now, but I'm like, I just think the hypocrisy of Hollywood, and then he's holding that statue, dancing like, you hate to say it, but like, what are you worshiping that statue? You're not worshiping like just morals of a good person. He should have been. The joke wasn't even. I mean, come on with the joke. It was ridiculous.
Believe me, of all the jokes Chris Rock could have said about Will Smith's wife, based on her history, come on, based on their lifestyle, but that is level 1 offensive. That wasn't even close to what Chris Rock could have done if given the opportunity. Ricky Gervais, put him in that situation.
Oh,
What would his joke? What would his joke have been?
Come on, dude, you know it would have been bad. And he looked at.
I
You
know.
saw Chris Rock say after Will Smith left, he was like, "Oh, I could," and he goes, "No." He had 5, like, you
No,
know,
I'm sure he did.
oh yeah, another guy can sleep with your wife, joke, but I say something about her hair, you're gonna hit me. It's I don't know. That's the part of Hollywood I hated, the hypocrisy of that. Seeing them all cheer for him like that, and I liked Will Smith before that. I thought, but
I did
Chris
too.
Rock,
It's amazing how an entire history of a person can be erased in literally 10 seconds.
for a lot of people, a lot of people will say, "Oh, I heard people say I would have done the same thing." Well, you're a fucking moron. You would have done the same thing because someone made a bald joke. Be making bald jokes about men. Men have the same thing. Men get
Right.
bombarded. Okay, all women are sensitive about their hair. Well, I think men are too. Why do you think they spend so much money trying to get hair?
Yeah.
It's like it's a joke. And
Yeah.
Jeff Ross had a good response to it. He tweeted something, but yeah, I just think I was upset because for me it just brought back my whole thing and thinking like the way Will Smith walked up. Chris Rock thought it was going to be like a little joking thing,
Right.
and that's why he leaned in to listen. And Will
Mhm.
Smith just, it was like, "You mother!" I couldn't believe it.
Well, for you to get punched in Daytona, if there's a city in Florida that you were going to get punched at on stage,
That's
Daytona would have probably rose to the top of the list, to be
yeah,
honest. I've said this about Daytona. Everybody in Daytona, Florida, walks with a limp.
it's true. It's true. Everybody's
You
been in some
drive
kind
it
of
down.
tussle, or they're old.
Yes. Or
It's a good one.
like they like live near a power plant that wasn't sealed properly. It's just everybody walks with a limp. If you see the locals there, it's like they all walk like they just had a bad experience with a bouncer at the bar the night
You're so
before.
right. You are so right. They did a hit of meth or something, and they got into a fight. And that's where I started comedy. So I was like, 30 years ago, I started here or whatever it was, and then I just got punched. You've
Oh man.
had people kind of probably get aggressive at shows,
Oh
right,
yeah.
over this much time. But you always know their intent because they're aggressive. But
Hmm.
when someone walks up calmly, that's a nut job. That's someone whose fuse gets lit and they can't
Hmm.
control the impulse. Somebody that's just
Well, and now,
aggressive. Okay.
well, and now today in our society, as unhinged as people are, and the hair trigger response that they have to just when you see, a road rage incident where somebody cuts somebody off and someone pulls out a gun and shoots them. It's just
Insane.
that that there did so much more damage to society than I think Will
Yeah.
Smith will ever even realize.
No, because he's justifying the immediate emotional response of go take care of it, which is what you teach your
Right.
kids from day one. Keep your hands to
Hmm.
yourself,
Hmm.
unless it's
No,
self-defense.
exactly.
Unless self-defense is a different thing.
Now I got to ask you this here: your best and or worst drunk story, which could be one and the same. Your best or worst drunk story.
Oh God, it started out as a good night in Milwaukee with my buddy Tony Esposito. You know Tony Esposito, I think.
I know who Tony is. Yeah.
Yeah, and so he's a cruise comic, and we used to be on the road sometimes together. And he's funny, and we were in Milwaukee doing the Potawatomi Casino, and it was the anniversary of his mom's death, 1 year in, and it was the first year of the death. So Joe Sanfilippo takes us to this, those places that they give you like 10 different. It's a saber place where you get like chicken, alligator, bear, ostrich. Like it's a fucking zoo of meats that you try. You know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
You
Yep.
know,
Absolutely.
those places, and we're just eating. We're
Yep.
drinking Gentleman Jack, and we don't have a show that night. And we're just drinking, and we're laughing, and we're having the best time eating all this meat. Like you literally are putting a zoo in your stomach, and then drinking. I'm not kidding, Derek, because I had monkey in there, I had everything, and I'm like, man, these animals are not feeling good with this Jack, right? So I'm ready to go back to the hotel. Tony's like, "Oh, bro, you're not going to come out with me? It's the anniversary of my mom's death." I'm like, "No, I guess I'm going out." We proceed to go to like all these bars in Milwaukee, and we're doing Jack Daniels at every bar. And I'm like, "Oof." And I'm like, oh man, we get to like 2 o'clock. I go back. He's like, hey, we're gonna go get real chili. I'm like, I can't do real chili right now, bro. It's 2 a.m. and I feel like I'm gonna yak. And I got like,
Because you ate it.
it's like I ate it. You're probably right. And I get up, I'm like, I'm going, and I'm in that, that timer's going off in your head that you have to get from the lobby of the hotel up the elevator into your room before somebody opens up the cages to the animals and they're all coming out at once.
Yes, I know that timer all too well.
And this is one of the worst. And I'm like, I gotta go. I go in, I get to my door, I open it up, and I open the bathroom door, and I got giraffes, elephants just flying out of my mouth. Like, I'm like, I end up yakking in the sink. I'm like, I get over to the toilet, I'm throwing up forever, right? Like, I probably should have died. I think I was right when I split back up with my ex-wife and stuff like that. So there's a little bit of depression going on. I'm just like, I'm dying. I lay on the tile. It's nice and cold. It's a clean thing to do in a hotel. Lay on the tile.
I've done it.
So
no judgment here.
So I wake up like we all do, blacked out, right? I wake up the next morning. And I'm like, what the fuck happened? I go, oh my God. I look in the sink and I see residue of basically monkey fucking
Busch Gardens.
And I'm like, so I made it and I didn't make it. I turn on the water, it's all clogged up. I'm embarrassed. And it's just disgusting. I feel like an animal, right? So I'm like, I can't call somebody up to do this. It's awful. It smells awful. I reach under the sink and I'm like, I got to get this trap off. I'm like, trying to get the pipe off. I take it. I swear to God, with my bare hands, I get the freaking nut off. I'm like, ah! I take it down. This thing is jam packed with disgusting zoo meat, and I'm not proud of it, Derek. I'm not proud. A lot of people probably think I need help, and I have to. I have to get something to push it through the trap of I forget what it's called, the pipe. And then I got to hook it back up. I get the water going. It worked. Didn't have to call anybody. Wrap all the gack up. I'm dying. We got a show that night. Tony is just as bad. Like I think I had alcohol poisoning. I get this whole thing. I take the bag of monkey, elephant, and giraffe, and as I'm walking down, as I'm walking down to the valet, I drop it in the lady's cleaning some other room, so I just drop it in her garbage and I beeline it, and I'm like, she's gonna get back to that thing and go, what the fuck is that smell? Not proud of that moment. I told that on my podcast. I tell you, that was probably the most. I learned that never again. You know what I mean? I don't think Jack Daniels is not a drink I drink anymore. I hardly drink whiskey at all. I'm like, yeah. But you hit one of those nights. Started out a great night. Ended up where
they all do.
A plumber and a zookeeper in the same night.
You did. You were a plumber and a zookeeper. Listen, I give you credit for pulling the P-trap off of there and getting it out, where most guys would have just called maintenance and just ran and hid and called it a day. So I mean, huge props to you for being a solid human and figuring out a way to pull that off in the state that you were in. I mean, you're hungover, you feel like complete garbage, and now you've got to go ahead and do that. And you're trying to do the right thing by cleaning this thing out.
I couldn't, because I've had blue collar jobs my whole life. I'm like, I can't have somebody come up here. So now I'm like, the moral of the story is bring a pair of water pumps on every job you go on for comedy in case you got to take off a pipe. I couldn't believe I got that nut off there. I was like, ah.
That's impressive. I would have lost it again once I pulled the P-trap off. I mean, I give you huge props for making that happen.
I don't know how I did.
Well done. Well, hey, good recovery.
There's something. Yeah, I may not make it to the top of the entertainment, pyramid, but I dare Will Smith to do that.
Here we go. 3 random questions from actually the game sitting right behind you as we wrap up this episode. By the way, deanscomedy.com is his website. See him April 8th at Cape Cabaret in Cape Coral, Florida, April 15th in Sanford, Florida, and April 23rd, a show that I am thoroughly looking forward to. You, Me, and Al Romas, Crack Up Cancer in Fort Lauderdale. Go to the Crack Up Cancer website. I believe it's crackupcancer.org, if I'm not mistaken. You can Google Crack Up Cancer Fort Lauderdale. It'll pop up. Oh, yeah, You, Me, and Al Romas. It's going to be a blast for a great cause. Crack Up Cancer in Fort Lauderdale on April 23rd. And also follow Dean on Facebook and Instagram and watch his episodes of his dad with the hearing aids uncharged. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Here we go. 3 random questions from the game behind you, Cards Against Humanity. Here we go. Fill in the blank. Dean, the new Chevy Tahoe with the power and space to take blank everywhere you go.
To take pop everywhere I go.
Alternative medicine is now embracing the curative powers of blank.
Alternative medicine is now embracing the curative powers of oral sex. What?
Like Dr. Dean Napolitano. Last question. When I was tripping on acid, blank turned into blank. When I was tripping on acid, blank turned into blank.
When I was tripping on acid, my dog turned into an appetizer.
Because you probably had a version of that in Milwaukee. Dean Napolitano, dude, I can't thank you enough for your time, my friend. Good luck with everything. Great, Bart Drive Boys. People need to see this when it rolls on the road. I'm very excited for you with that. That sounds like a real fun project, man. DeansComedy.com.
Thanks,
Dean, you're fantastic. Thanks, buddy. Appreciate you.
Love you, brother. Take care.
You're awesome, man. Dean Napolitano, my guest today on A Drink with Derek. Again, follow him on his website, deanscomedy.com. Also, huge thanks to our sponsor, VegasSportsAdvantage.com. These guys will make you money at Vegas Bets for you on social media. Again, March Madness is winding down here now, but you've got the NHL playoffs coming up, NBA, Major League Baseball futures, VegasSportsAdvantage.com. Save 35%, get a package. Type in the promo code Derek35, DEREK 35, the correct way to spell it. And also, to grab a copy of my album, Double Down, on iTunes, on Spotify, on Amazon, and see me April 14, 15, 16, where I recorded that album at Laughing Comedy Cafe in Fort Myers, Florida. And also check out the Irish Comedy Tour. Our special is available on Amazon Prime. And we've got a brand new lineup now with comedian Michael Malone joining myself and Derek King and Damon Liebert. Excited to have him on board with the brand new tour and a Christmas show on the horizon. So very stoked to have that happen. Thank you so much to everybody. Sean, our producer, always a wise ass. Love you, my friend. We'll see you on the next time on A Drink with Derek. Bye.
You're watching Conservative Television of America, working hard to stick socialism where the sun don't shine.